kind of on that same vein of equipping people, when we first got to Ecuador, we weren't quite sure what we were going to do, and we had met a pastor of a local church, Leo Calva, who the mission committee helped support, and we were doing music there's this huge park, and we were doing music in the park and then handing out tracts and little bags of candy. And one of the helpers was a gal, her name's Maria, Pinta. They have a lot of names in Ecuador. But we were kind of drawn to her, and we asked her in our limited Spanish, would you be willing to just have it come over and let us just practice our Spanish? And she was like, sure, no problem. And so we ended up doing that, and over the course of a few months, she shared with us that where she came from in Moyopamba, it's about an hour away from Loja, that she just had this passion to minister to the women and the kids there, but that she didn't feel like she was getting a lot of support, and she just needed help with bus fare and snacks, because it's very common to have coffee and bread. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, well, we'll pay for your bus fare. She was like, really? And so that just grew into, slowly but surely, and it kind of kicked off at Christmas time. I just got this nudge. They give out Christmas bags of candy. That's kind of their Christmas gift. And so I wanted to do that in Moyopamba. And then, of course, I made cookies for them to decorate and cupcakes. And so now we go, at the end of every month, we go and do kind of like a quick vacation Bible school. We do a Bible lesson and crafts and snacks. And then now, after, we play soccer with them.
Wow.
They kill us. We call them mosquitoes, because they are just
Las moscas.
running around. And kind of in that, we have, at first, the kids were a little standoffish, because first of all, they couldn't believe that a couple of white people would actually take the time to go there and do this for and with them. But over time, they got used to us. The little girls more quickly than the boys, but once we got out on the soccer field with them, it was like we were good. And we kind of learned, how they process stuff, and kind of some of the needs. Like, none of them had shoelaces, and so when they would kick the soccer ball, their shoes would fly off, right. Or they would have their big brother's old Crocs on, and so we took shoelaces and just other things that they needed, and so every month, and Maria is just so excited, and then it turned into us taking her and her 4 kids in our car every month. And so that kind of got rid of the bus thing. And so we could go earlier and do some other ministry stuff there, and stay later and play soccer longer, and eat in a local restaurant, and help them out, and meet kind of some of the, the outskirts of the little village. And then more and more, like, there was this little lady at Christmas time. They weren't sure how old she was. She was in her 80s. They weren't sure if it was mid or late 80s, but she walked a mile to come see what it was all about. And she ended up with this load of stuff that we had brought for her, and she was going to walk that mile back. And I was like, no, you're not walking the mile back. So I put the thing on my back, and I said, I'll walk you. And Maria was like, no, it'll take you like all day. And so we got her a cab, and she did not want to get in the cab. We're like, oh, come on, get in the cab. It'll be fine. And so she agreed to get in the cab so she could take all of her snacks home. But she was so cute eating her cookie. She would pick off the little decorations, and then she'd lick the frosting off. And then she'd eat the cookie, and then she'd have a cupcake. And so it was really cute to see that we were having 2-year-olds to 80-plus-year-olds joining in with us. So it's cool. That's one of our favorite things to do.
Lord, I don't know how to talk to people about you. I'm not a Bible expert.
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
How can I help open the gospel to Carson City and beyond?
Spreading the gospel is about building personal relationships. It's communicating with people on a meaningful level, spending time, getting to know someone, being a friend, connecting. Listen, just listen. Our world is full of people longing for connection. They want to be heard. Hear what they are saying without supplying all the answers. So, how do we open the gospel to Carson City and beyond? Just be you. Share the wonderful you God created you to be, with the world longing for more connection, fellowship, relationship. Jesus.
A core piece of our experience now in Loja is a house church that we have formed. When we initially arrived in Loja, we joined Leo Calva's church, Semilla de Mostaza, and we're attending, and I was playing in the band, and it was great. We met so many wonderful people there. But then the pandemic hit, and we wondered how we were going to worship, and so we logged in and listened to Bob Davis in Carson City for several weeks, and then we got this idea of a house church, and I'll talk more about this on Sunday. But it is also a neat way to empower local people to play an important role in God's kingdom. We started off as a bilingual church, but have now evolved completely into Spanish, and the group has grown significantly, and we are hoping to soon divide into two churches, one Spanish only and one bilingual. And that has also been neat, but there's something about that house church format that I think really enables discipleship, leadership development, and empowerment among the people. And so it's something we are only now just getting into. And you sort of referenced cultural contacts, and we're just now scratching the surface on that. But I had a neat opportunity. Leo Calva was in the U.S. last year completing his doctoral dissertation, and he needed some editing help because English is his second language. So he sent it to me, and I provided some editing help, but in the process learned a lot because his dissertation was about church planting in southern Ecuador, and he talked a lot about cultural traditions and barriers that exist. And so it definitely has enlightened us on what needs to be done to really connect with people.
And another interesting thing that we got involved with a missionary that stayed with us for a couple months while he was looking for an apartment is what is
Reflection,
Reflection English
Friends and
Fun. And so with the pandemic, it went online, and it reached all over Ecuador. And there was a gal, Alejandra, that her English is really good. But usually the stories that we do in English, and it's for folks who are bilingual and want to practice their English, because there aren't a lot of opportunities for that. And so she lives in Nueva Loja, which is 9 hours away from us. And so we've kind of built this relationship with her. She's an English teacher, and she's planning to come down to Loja and hang out with us. She really wants to come and meet us. And so through that, her spirituality has grown. And a lot of the other, I call them kids because they're in their 20s and 30s.
Me too.
Same age as our kids.
Same
And it has really helped with their faith. Like, they were questioning God, but now with the little stories that we've done, they've become quite faithful, I think. So that's another really good outreach.
That's great.
Into all of Ecuador. So
Speaking to that, that deep-seated desire that young people in Ecuador have for faith. This was kind of mind-blowing to me. So the same missionary friend she was talking about, who we started REF with, his name is Israel Rodriguez, and he's an Ecuadorian but a professional missionary. In the early weeks of the pandemic, he decided to do an online Zoom group with young men on the topic of sexual purity. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how many 20-somethings want to show up and talk about sexual purity night after night? Well, he had over 30 young men do this for a month, every night, and talk about this difficult topic. And it was enlightening. It showed me there is a need and desire, a hunger among young people for faith, for direction, for answering those difficult questions that are on their hearts.
And the pandemic all over the world has made these opportunities, just like here.
Right.
Like they said, well, we're sitting in one of those opportunities right now because of the pandemic.
Right.
But it's kind of true all over the world that the gospel has found a way to use the tools that are available to us to still have the work of the gospel be the work of the kingdom being done, even when we can't meet.
Right, in person.
Yeah. It's been pretty amazing to hear the different ways that the Lord's done that.
And when we started doing the house church online, gosh, there were probably every week 5 new people that hadn't been coming to the house church, but kind of through hearing about it, they were online. One gal was really into it. Her father passed away from COVID, and then pretty soon it was her, and then her mom, and then her husband kind of was questioning, and then it was the 3 of them, and then there were a lot of families that would start with just one person. Then pretty soon on Sunday, the whole family would be there in front of the computer with their Bibles and asking really good questions. And so it was really neat to be able to do that.
And we were thinking that meeting online is a drag, and people aren't going to be interested.
Yeah, me too.
But
they don't look at it that way.
No,
and I think people were still a little afraid of the virus, and they thought, hey, I don't want to be there in person, but I can meet online.
Yep.
And sure enough.
Yeah, every Sunday, someone new.
Great.
Neighbors that have kids and they're not able.
Makes it easier.
It
Yeah.
makes it easier for them. And
You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
so it's really been interesting with the house church. Our Spanish tutors, he's Lojano and she's from Kansas, and she grew up in the church, so she's really familiar with it. And Byron, his folks are Catholic, but he's a Christian, but they're totally okay with it. But in wanting to train up Ecuadorians to keep things going, we just I think we were going to be gone, and so we asked Byron if he would be willing to facilitate house church. And he was a little taken aback at first. I think he's like 35, that we would even ask him to help.
To assume a role.
Leadership.
Culturally, that
role.
was probably quite a thing for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he has embraced the role and has facilitated church 3 or 4 times, and I think it's helping him grow in his faith, and he's very faithful. He taught in a English academy, and before the rules of church and state are completely different there, but before every class the kids prayed. All of his kids prayed in English, and so he starts our Spanish classes in prayer in Spanish. But I think this has really helped him realize that, yeah, I can play a significant role in spreading Christianity to their peers, to his students, even to older folks that he's teaching Spanish to, tutoring in Spanish. So that's been really fun to see. And we know, just because of the kind of person that he is, that if and when we leave, he will keep that, and her too, they will keep that going. So it's really neat to see that lifting him up to realize that he's got a goal. So that was really cool. Yeah.
And I'm seeing the need for, I always knew that discipleship needed to be, play an important role in any church. But now I am seeing the necessity of not just creating disciples, but creating disciple makers, because it's the only way the church is going to grow and survive and thrive ultimately. And so we've been kind of groping for, how do we do this? What does discipleship look like in our house church? And really haven't quite figured it out yet, but the way my mind is tracking is to create discipleship small groups of 3 to 5 men or 3 to 5 women, with at least one mature Christian to lead the group for many months of discipleship and accountability and spiritual growth, with the intent that each member of the group will then become their own discipleship group leader, and that this exercise will be the key undercurrent in growing the house church into a network of house churches. And that's our ultimate goal, is to have a house church network in Loha that is dynamic and growing, that perhaps meets on some regular basis, monthly or quarterly, to do a corporate worship service in some large group setting.
Neat idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, another interesting story again revolves around Maria. We were just having lunch one day, and she asked us, what is a woman's role in church? Can I disciple to other women? And there it's kind of a male-dominated. Women don't serve. They're not pastors. I don't think they're elders. They just don't play a leadership role.
A visible role.
Leadership role.
Right.
And so she wasn't sure, because she really wants to work with single moms, because there are a lot, unfortunately, of single moms, and that's kind of her passion. And she just wasn't quite sure if she could do that, if it was okay. And so we still need to work that out. We haven't been able to really breach that subject yet, but we have a plan to get out there, because I think a man discipling a woman in that culture is not going to be as effective, just because of the dominance thing. So woman to woman, you can really share, and she's got a lot of experience in that area, being a single mom with 4 amazing kids. That's
She'd
another.
be great at it.
Yeah, she'll be amazing. Not only in her hometown of Moyopamba, but she's brought 3 or 4 different friends to the house church. So that's just her passion. So we really want to
Encourage
build
it,
her up
nurture
and
it.
encourage her.
right.
And her kids too are amazing. They ask for prayers for their professors, and they evangelize to their friends and their teachers, which it's amazing, because Catholicism is so strong there, but they are unafraid to just lay it out on the line, and they have
Unabashed Jesus lovers.
Yeah, and they just don't have a problem telling whoever is willing to listen what it's all about.
Wow.
And it's all the way from Abby, she's 10, to Fernanda, who just turned 17. And the boys too, they're just like, just lay it out there. And there's not a lot of peer pressure there. It's like they don't care if people don't like what they have to hear. They're just strong in their faith, and they're okay. If you don't like it, okay, that's fine. I can move along.
We have some things to learn from them.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because for
Yeah.
me, it's sometimes I'm like kind of afraid to put it out there. But yeah, with them, it's like they're just
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really neat to see that.